welcome to you once again. My name is Miss Boateng. Today I'll take you through class 3 mathematics. Today we'll look at geometry and measurement, but then we'll talk about measurement of time. So by the end of today's lesson, you should be able to identify the units on a clock which are used in measuring time. Good. Let us go through our keywords which will make us understand our lesson better. The first keyword we have is units. Units. They are fixed standard amount or quantity. They are fixed standard amount or quantity. For example, kilogram. It is used as a unit to measure the weight of something. That is 10 kilograms, 5 kilograms. We have units in measuring time as well. We can say 1 minute. Don't worry, we will get there. Our next keyword is time. Time. It is the period when something occurs. The period when something occurs. Example, the time we take or we use when we are taking our bath, when we are playing outside. Now I am teaching. It will take some time for me to finish teaching. It is the period that is making me teach. Good. Our second keyword is digital. Digital. This provides a readout in a figure form. When we talk about digital, it provides a readout in a figure form. We know what figure means. In the number form. 0, 1, 2. So when I write 2 and then I write 30, you'll be able to read out as you see. Good. Our next keyword is analog. Analog. It refers to using of signals. When we use signals to tell something, we are talking about analog. A clock or a watch is called analog when it has moving hands to show you the time. So the clock has hands which is used in telling the time. So these hands that are used in telling the time is known as the analog. Now our last keyword is clockwise. Clockwise. It is the typical forward movement of the hands of a clock. So when you see the hands moving in a forward direction, then we can say it is moving in a clockwise way or direction. Very good. Children, I hope you were able to do the assignment I gave you in our previous lesson. Okay, so using your clock or your watch, you were asked to time these activities. So how long did it take you to complete walking around the house? Again, how much time did it take walking to the nearest house? And the last one, how long did it take you to read a story book? I hope you have your time. Alright, today we'll move on and then we'll look at the units on the clock, which helps us in telling or measuring time. Very good. In our previous lesson, we realized that we use the clock or the watch in telling the time. We have the analog clock and then the digital clock. Some watches also have the analog and then the digital. Okay, children, this clock is an example of an analog clock. Remember, in our keywords, we said analog talks about signals, the hand moving in a clock. So I hope we can see some hands moving. This shows a typical example of an analog clock. I also have a watch here. This watch is an example of a digital watch. You can easily read out the figure, right? So what do you have there? You can easily mention the numbers or the figures you see there. That is a digital watch. But today we'll focus on the analog clock. We'll look at the units and then how to tell time from the analog clock. Very good. We have 3 units when measuring time. These units are the seconds, the minutes, and then the hours. The seconds, the minutes, and the hours. They are used in telling the time. Therefore, they are the units in measuring time. When someone asks for a time, you can't just say the numbers without knowing the minutes, without knowing the seconds, or without knowing the hours. You need to know all these 3 units in order to tell an appropriate time. Now let us pay attention to this clock. Look at the face of the clock, the analog clock. We can see 3 hands there. What are they? Or what are their names? You can see a very long hand. Yes, this hand. It is known as the minute hand. And then we see a short hand. This. That is the hour hand. Then we can see another hand moving continuously. Which one is that? The second hand. Very good. The second hand is always moving. Without the second hand, we can't tell the time, because the second hand helps the hour hand and the minute hand to move in a clockwise direction. We said a clockwise direction means forward direction, moving in a forward manner. So this is 12. We have 1 here, we have 2. So assuming any hand is on 12, when it moves to 1, it is moving in a clockwise direction, or it is moving forward. Good. Now we know the units of the clock, which is the second hand, the minute hand, and then the hour hand. This unit will help us to tell the time. Now let's look at the numbers on the analog clock. We have 12 numbers on the clock, from 1 to 12, which gives us a 12-hour clock. Very good. Now let us pay attention to the second hand. Every movement of the second hand gives us 1 second. So if the second hand moves, it is 1. Takes another move, 2. Starting from 12, moving in a clockwise direction back to 12 gives us 60 seconds. So when the second hand moves from 12 in a clockwise direction and goes back to 12, it gives us 60 seconds. Good. Now let us move on to the minute hand. Every movement of the minute hand gives us 1 minute. Another movement gives us 2. So if the minute hand is on 12 and it moves in a clockwise direction back to 12, it gives us 60 minutes. But children, why is it 60 minutes? Good. It is 60 minutes because from 12 to 1, we have small strokes in them, which is 5 strokes. So from 12 to 1, there are little strokes in them, which sum up to 5. From 1 to 2, another 5 strokes. From 2 to 3, 5 strokes. It is 5. So the interval between the numbers are 5 each. So we have 5 each from 12 back to 12. Now let us count. From 12 to 1, we have 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. This is why we have 60 minutes. Also, I told you that the second hand also sums up to 60. Which means that each stroke takes 1 second. Have you ever heard someone saying that 60 seconds makes 1 minute? Yes. This is because when the second hand moves from 12 and then makes a complete journey back to 12, it gives us 60 seconds. Therefore, 60 seconds gives us 1 minute. Good. So when the second hand moves from 12 and back to 12, the minute hand moves once. So the second hand makes a complete journey for the minute hand to move. And they are both moving in a clockwise direction. So you can see the second hand moving. It started from 12, it will end on 12, and then our minute hand will move. 1. Okay. Now children, let us look at the hour hand. Now, the hour hand gives us the hour when telling the time. From 12 to 1, we have 1 hour. So each interval gives us 1 hour. When the minute hand moves from 12 and then completes its journey back to 12, it gives us 60 minutes, right? And then 60 minutes gives us an hour. So when the minute hand moves and makes a journey back to the 12, the hour hand will move to the next number. Let us watch this. The minute hand, we can say it's on 12, and then the hour hand is on 1. Now we said that when the minute hand completes a journey from 12 back to 12, the hour hand moves from the number it's pointing to another number. Now let us demonstrate how this works. Pay attention to the minute hand and then the hour hand. I will move the minute hand in a clockwise direction. Can you see the movement? Good. Now, I moved the minute hand from 12 and then I brought it back to 12. The hour hand was on 1, but now, which number is the hour hand on? 2. Very good. So can we tell the time? What is the time? Very good. The time is 2 o'clock. Okay, children, what have we learned today? Today we've been able to identify the units on a clock, which helps us in measuring time. These units, as we said, are the seconds, the minutes, and then the hours. These 3 units helps us to tell time. We also learned that there are 5 intervals between the numbers on the clock, and then we've been able to tell the time with the help of these units. So we said that when the second hand moves from 12 and back to 12, it gives us 60 seconds. Also, when the minute hand moves from 12 and then back to 12 again, it gives us 60 minutes. But when the hour hand moves from one number to the other with the help of the minute hand, it gives us 1 hour. So we said that the minute hand moves from 12 and back to 12. For the hour hand to move from one number to the other number. So the hour hand depends on the minute hand. The minute hand needs to complete its journey for the hour hand to move to make 1 hour. So we said 60 seconds make 1 minute, 60 minutes make 1 hour. So children, how many hours make a day? Yes, we'll find out in our next lesson. Be good, children. Take your clock and then tell the time in every event you find yourself. Take care. Bye-bye.